assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdeed, ji ayanu goeiemorgen.
Pakhairagele, ni hao, chudeshumbe, washmale, ohio gozaimasu, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasalan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabiab, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning, with the very energetic, the very famous, the very superb Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you so much for asking, but right now I feel like I'm having a little trouble because I just literally swallowed a gum.
Really?
Other than that, what about you?
Well, you shouldn't be swallowing gums though. I mean, I don't know, but I think that it can be dangerous though.
Of course it's dangerous, Shazad. Thank you so much for pointing that out. But I've been doing that ever since I was a child. It's a very bad habit, kids. Especially, I mean, imagine if you have like a huge ball of gum inside your stomach and eventually it has to be removed.
Yeah.
So do not ever swallow gum.
Oh, thank you very much for saying that. And I think that I've got a brilliant message related to that too as well. Because, you know, when we were kids and, you know, all my siblings, we used to play together. So one of my elder sister, who's actually a year older than me, what she used to do was that she actually used to get very acquainted with her bubble gum. So what she would do is that she would eventually take it out of her mouth or start playing with it. Please don't do that. You know, it's a very disgusting thing to do. And
So
for all
many
of those kids who
germs.
do that, you know, even in these times, well, I think that you should actually prohibit your kids from doing that. And it's because of the fact that, you know, you touch your hands elsewhere and then you know, play with the bubble gum. Please don't do that. You know, it's not a nice thing to do. Or, but then at the same time, you know, today I had a very interesting experience early in the morning.
Okay.
And the experience actually took me back to a time when I used to go to school.
Aw.
Because when it was summertime.
Which was how many decades ago? On a
Well,
lighter
it
note.
wasn't really a decade ago. I think that it was back in 2003 and 4. That was when I was in my college. And if you go through the 90s, that was my school time as well. But what I was thinking about or reminiscing about was that, you know, whenever we used to go to school in summer, you know, we used to wear half sleeves and, you know, wear a tie. And the tie was compulsory every time we used to go. So today, you know, when I woke up, I thought that, okay, I want to actually dress up the way we used to dress up back in the school. I didn't put my school tie, but, you know, I think that this pretty much looks a very school attire.
And how do you feel?
I feel great.
nostalgic?
I feel great. I feel nostalgic as well. And then, you know, I feel a little enjoyable as well. And it's because of the fact that wearing full sleeves in such heat, I think is a little difficult.
It is definitely, and Shazad, your story actually reminded me of something I watched yesterday as well. It was an 80s classic. It's called Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm mentioning this to all of you because, you know, I realized, Shazad and I actually realized right before the show, how absolutely beautiful childhood it is, especially your school age. Shazad, everyone used to tell us that this is the golden time of your life. And we wouldn't, of course, realize it because we were so innocent, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, in the movie, so the kids finally sort of, you know, try to fake being sick to their parents, and their parents believe them, which is, again, not a good idea to do, kids. But I mean, it was fun for them. They took a day off from school and they were doing all sorts of adventures and whatnot. I mean, childhood is actually where you make all the amazing memories which stay with you throughout your life, right?
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that. And you know, for all of those people who might not realize it this way, okay, let me make you understand. Now imagine that there's somebody who's actually going to pay all the bills, you know. So you do not have to pay any bill. You know, somebody's actually even paying your school fee. Somebody's taking you places wherever you need to go. And you really do not have to do anything or say anything. You know, your father or mother will do that. Not just that, they will get you new clothes. Not just that, they will actually make sure that you are having good food. Or even if you want to have some burgers or crisp or whatever, they will get it for you. I think that's the kind of life everybody would want to go back and live on their own terms. You know, because as kids, we used to live on our own terms. And but then, ladies and gentlemen, eventually when you grow up, I think life is all about fulfilling duties. Now, eventually, we have to build a house for our daughters, you know, or do things for our kids as well. And then eventually when we pass on, we will pass it on to our kids as well. And this is how the process looks like. But now, ladies and gentlemen, due to COVID-19, I think that a lot of things have changed. The patterns we used to think, you know, the way we used to think has changed quite a lot as well.
Right.
Not just that, the way we used to feel emotions has changed quite a lot. You know, it's been so long that I haven't hugged any of my friends. And I'm telling you that this power of touch, we cannot actually comprehend it into words or express it in words as well, because of the fact that this is a language which the heart understands.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely.
And, you know, nobody else can understand. When you hug somebody, you know what the state of mind the other person is. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, the world needs to move on.
Oh,
the world
absolutely,
needs to go forward. You know, we cannot lag behind in any field. And I think that, you know, there are people who've actually made sure that they've taken such initiatives and they've made such products with which a lot of students are actually taking advantage.
Right, and since you said students, I'm going to take it further as well. So, well, all of you who have been watching the show regularly, you know that I happen to be a university student. I am going to graduate in less than a month. I
Then
mean,
you
I'm
were
done
done
with
with your
my
exams.
courses,
Yeah.
yes, but just one exam left. So, yeah. So, here's the thing. I mean, being a student, for me, when I ventured into the university era, it was one of the most, convenient things for me to, catch on to my courses as well, whatever the future courses are going to be, and, my attendance, XYZ, and also for my parents to keep a check on me,
Yeah.
was the learning management system.
Okay.
Now, of course, how technology is sort of advancing every single second as well, so all the educational institutions are sort of digitizing too. I mean, of course, we can't stay analog anymore. You can't just have a homework notebook in your hand, with all the squares and boxes and be
Yeah.
like, oh, this is my homework, open my diary. Everything is digitized, and this is what today we are going to be talking about. I mean, and the good thing, Shahzad, is no matter what area of Pakistan we're talking about, far-flung or, downtrodden, or even not even, I want to say the villages sort of, we don't even remember sometimes we talk about. All of them are sort of catching on to the pace of, technology moving so fast, and also digitization. And today we are going to celebrate one of the very amazing universities in
Yes.
one of those far-flung areas, which is onto the race now too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shiza, for mentioning this very particular point. And I think that this is something which we can actually say is that we have taken advantage out of these testing times as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that everybody's eventually coming onto the same pace. You know, nobody's lacking behind. So everybody's making sure that they're going to provide some amazing educational services to their students as well. But not just that. I think that here's the twist. Imagine that Higher Education Commission obviously gives an affiliation to a university, and only then the university can process and can actually have a name for themselves. And it's only because of the fact that they have the HEC affiliation. But you know what? Higher Education Commission happens to be a leader when we talk about universities, when we talk about the learning management systems and
Right.
whatnot. So HEC actually offered this university a learning management system. I do not know why the university denied and what were the reasons behind it. So what we did was that we actually invited the Vice Chancellor over here in the studio so that we can ask the same questions from him, and so that we can learn from him as well at the same time, and that we can ask about this learning management system which was built by the university students and actually has more than 8,500 students on it taking
Brilliant.
advantage of this learning management system. What was so different? I have seen the screenshots as well of the learning management system. It looks very user friendly, but then at the same time, everybody's got an eye on everybody. You can see whether teachers are coming or not. You can see whether students are coming or not. And you can even see whether somebody has paid the fee or not. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the Vice Chancellor of Abdul Wali Khan University, Mardan, Professor Dr. Zahurul Haq. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, pakhair aagle.
Walaikum assalam, Jazakallah ji.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. It's wonderful to have you, and I like the energy you have right now.
Of course. You are talking about building a home, and LMS has actually built us the university.
Exactly.
It's just like our home, and we will pass on to our next generations to further improve it, further build on it, and develop the university.
Wow.
But that's
Yes.
brilliant, sir. But to begin with, I have to mention one thing over here. Shahzad, how often we talk about privilege, and we do realize that we are the privileged ones.
Yep.
But you are an agent of change. When we talk about all the students of your university, I mean, when people talk about having lesser opportunities, it's a legit thing. But you provided the best quality of education to the people who didn't have enough opportunities to probably, as compared to probably anyone living in the federal capital. So that's brilliant of you. Where do you get that kind of inspiration from? I mean, you are an educationist for so long, mashallah. But to bring that change in the society, it's amazing.
Well, Shahzad, our faculty who are graduate from some of the leading and best universities of the world,
Okay.
Imperial College London, Oxford, Cambridge.
Wow.
I mean, you name it in universities. I'm a graduate of University of Gulf, Canada.
Oh,
So, I
brilliant.
mean, it's and there are 200 faculty having with PhDs.
Wow.
And another 80 who are completing PhDs, and they will be joining us. So if 300 PhDs are sitting somewhere, I mean, they will not be sitting idle. They will be doing something.
Of course.
And it's a wonderful feeling when you are there. As you said, it's not the privileged areas like Lahore or Islamabad or Karachi. where you have even internet connectivity issues and stuff like that.
Right.
Our challenges are very different
Of course.
than the challenges faced by these the students in Islamabad or in Lahore. I mean, we are doing our best. If
Yeah.
you will be amazed to hear that when we competed for the first time in the ranking, our university was established in 2009 May. We competed in 2013 in the ranking, and we were number 2 in KP and number 13 in I think number 11 in the entire country among 180 plus universities.
Just in 4
Congratulations
years.
It never
to that.
happened
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
in the national competition. I mean, if a young university, 3 years old, and 3 years actually is required by HEC because they need 3 years data
Okay.
to use it in the ranking.
Okay.
So, small university located in not a privileged area,
Yep.
and then it blasts into number 11 in the country and number 2 in the province.
Wow.
It was amazing, and since then we are performing. There were some low points as well,
Yeah,
but you know.
which is great, sir. But since you said that that we are a small university, I cannot get my head around a university which has more than 35 departments in it or disciplines as we speak about it.
Yeah.
Why do you call it small?
Well, when I look around, especially if you look at Punjab, and you typically ask a university, 30,000 plus is the number of students. That number of departments actually you need to grow horizontally first. Create departments slowly and gradually, and then you need to go vertically by offering different programs, BS, MS, PhD, and you keep on growing. So, when I say we have 11,000 students, 11,500, and I think the biggest university in KP has 12.5, 13,000 students.
Right.
By that standard, we are big.
Of course.
But when I compare to other universities in the country, we are still in the medium range. Not small. Small is less than 5,000, but in the medium range.
So we definitely wish you best of luck, sir. But very quickly, I know, Shiza, that you've got a question, but let's come down and talk about learning management system,
Yeah.
which is the need of the hour, and everybody's taking advantage of it. Now, what I need to ask is that when HEC offered you that you can use this learning management system, why did you opt to make your own?
Well, the HEC was very generous. They were offering it to all the universities in the country, and I think in this COVID situation, HEC has been amazing.
Yes.
They have been supporting the universities not only in technology and
In every way.
in every way, even financially. They're supporting the university. They know they know our problems. So when they offered it virtual university LMS, which is probably the best in the country.
Okay.
But we started work on LMS a year ago.
All right.
And we were in the process of building. Our challenges were a bit different. Our challenge was, since, as you said, we are situated in an area where fee collection is an issue.
Okay.
And so our challenge was that we have an LMS which actually help us in fee collection, and we could. There were some governance issues, so we can have a check on the classes, whether it happens, whether it's regularly been taken, and so on. So that was our main purpose. Nobody was thinking about COVID-19, that it will come and then we're going to take virtual classes as well. So number one, we were ready for it.
Okay.
Because it started a year ago. And number two, HEC sometimes offers you a facility, but later on there is a check is attached to it. You know, universities pay for it.
Okay.
When we were given offered the facility, it was only for 6 months.
Okay.
And after 6 months, there would be an agreement between the virtual university and other university like Abdul Wali Khan University, Mardan. And then under that agreement, we would have to pay to virtual university for using their facilities.
Okay.
And naturally, if a university build a technology and would like to earn using it, there is nothing wrong in it.
Of course.
They have all the privileges to do it. But what we thought that instead of going for it, let's use our own, let's test it.
Okay.
and let's keep on improving it. And although it will provide us an opportunity to actually move forward with using the technology, and ultimately, I mean, become a university which
Which is up to date.
which is up to date,
Yeah.
which can where technology can be used easily, and I mean the cell phone that we are carrying, it's the ultimate classroom. Anyways.
Absolutely.
It's
But
the-
sir, it must be such a relief. You mentioned that you started working on it last year before even the COVID-19 days started. But it must be such a relief when the pandemic started and everything had to move online, classes and everything. And
Absolutely.
you already had a system, right?
Absolutely. So when we launched it, right after closure of the university, everybody was surprised, and then HEC said that we need to start the classes from June. So we have to wait for another 1 month to actually launch it again. So we then we followed the HEC. We started classes from June 1st, but we were ready for it.
Okay.
As I said, it was never meant for it, but it happened. But
Okay, sir. So sorry, Shahzad, to cut you over here, but one more thing, sir. Actually, a few days back on Facebook, there's a group for women where mothers come to discuss everything, and there was one of a very sweet woman had a legit issue of how parents, not all parents, are accustomed to new technology.
Yeah.
Right now, since all the classes have moved on to phones as well, and their laptops as well, so some of the mothers and fathers, of course, were finding it hard to cope with the system or cope with the app or whatever because they've never done it. So when we talk about university students as well, for example, if someone who's in studying literature, let's say Urdu, English, whatever, they're not as accustomed to apps or using computers as someone studying it would be. So was it hard for some of the students to actually catch up onto it as well?
well, to be honest with you, it's hard for me. I'm teaching microeconomics to PhD. It's not easy because you need a professor who has been taught for 20 years in a classroom, and suddenly he goes virtual to the students. It's not easy.
Of course.
But we did a number of trainings. I think we had 5 training sessions for the faculty, and invited. In each session, we invited everybody, so that we have multiple sessions. But the program is so friendly.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
so friendly that
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it, and
He
people
really likes
definitely
it.
talk about it a little more as well. But at this point of time, I think what I need to ask or Dr. Saab over here is, how does it feel to teach microeconomics to PhD students? Yeah, this is something I need to ask. Because what I'm thinking right now is that PhD is the ultimate, or probably there are not a lot of people who can actually do it or pull it off as well. And then not just that you've done a PhD for yourself, and what you're doing is that you're even teaching microeconomics to PhD students. How does it feel? Because everybody over there needs to get this doctorate on their hands too as well, and they ask you some difficult questions. So how does it feel? Do you get adrenaline rush? Just the very thought that somebody is teaching PhD students is a very different thought.
well, I just said it. It's not that. Well, I'm proud of it, but
And I gave you a disclaimer that I can be naughty at times.
No, I mean, we always have those students like you in the classes. One art is there always. But the point is that I think it's the training that you get.
Okay.
So the training that I got from University of Gulf, Canada, I think that is a wonderful training.
All right.
Of course.
And those trainings actually help you in offering courses to PhD. And as I said, our university is blessed in a way because the faculty who got training from some of the best universities of the world, so they know what to teach to your students, what to offer, and at what level.
Okay.
And so I'm aware, and I know students, there is difficulty. It's very difficult and
But
challenging.
you have so much experience, mashallah.
Yeah, and to teach on LMS is not easy for me because I'm now old-fashioned.
Oh.
You are young.
It doesn't look like it doesn't look like that you're old-fashioned. But sir, now what I'm going to ask is that first of all, I would like to thank you that you actually made me even go back in my university days as well. So today,
I mean, you're dressed for it.
Yeah,
What can you do?
I was just thinking
Exactly,
about
you are dressed for it.
And when we used to go to our university, so it was mandatory for us to wear neckties and wear dress shirts and all of that.
And the ID card.
Yes, and the ID card. Or probably with Mardan University, it might be shalwar kameez or kapre, that's what they say. But what I know for sure is that it's the vice chancellors whose vision can actually take students up on the sky, and it can bring them down too as well. Now for us, whenever we used to our vice chancellor, we used to run away because we knew that, okay, probably he's going to fine us for not wearing a necktie, or he's going to do this or that. I think that the true credit for our degrees goes to our dean as well. If he's out there, sir, I think that you've done a wonderful job that we were able to finish our degrees. But why do you think that the VC carries an attitude where people are not very, people think that, he might not be very friendly? On the contrary, I think that VC is like a spiritual father for all of those students who study in the university. Why can't VCs be nicer to the students? Why do they have to be like...
It's a very, see, in economics, they said that economists have a mandate that they can make an assumption.
Yeah.
You made a wrong assumption, my friend.
Based on my experience.
Yeah. Today's, I mean, if you look at today's leadership, as far as the vice chancellors are concerned in the universities, they are extremely friendly, extremely friendly.
Right.
And I mean, whenever, yesterday I had 6 students in my office and they were complaining about not issuing degrees, and we chit chat for a couple of minutes and the issue was resolved. So it's actually whether you are giving time to them and whether you are listening to them. Students are, I think, if you talk to them for a couple of minutes, that's it. That's what you need.
Yes.
They are very friendly, and I think vice chancellors are also very friendly.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
But that's a really good answer and a safe one as well. But sir, right now I want you to answer as an educationist, not as a vice chancellor. So when we talk about the future of classrooms, especially amidst the COVID-19, what do you think it is, especially for university students? Is it all online in the future? I mean, your assumption, of course. What do you see?
See, it's as you know, it's everything is online, but the point is that whether you have that two-way communication with the students or not,
so
that is the most important thing. So any LMS that provides you the feature where you can talk to your students and they can talk to you. So again, that communication is built. After few classes, the confidence is there, the communication is there, and then you can stop your teacher and I mean
have a conversation.
It's the same conversation. And by the way, teachers are more comfortable because they are sitting in an environment where they are comfortable, they're not in the classroom, and students are comfortable because they are at home and they can have a cup of tea and they can take a class, and so there are other advantages which comes into the virtual classroom, and those advantages actually makes you comfortable. So on the other hand, we lose that direct eye-to-eye contact, but that's the cost of, I think, of the virtual class. But it does not affect the quality of teaching.
Wow.
That's the most that's the most important thing. We haven't heard from any student so far that it affected the quality of teaching.
So you're very right, where you actually said that it's not affecting the quality of education from the teacher's end. But let's think for a moment from the student's point of view as well, where the student is not very willing to ask or do a cross-question session with the teacher, and the cross-question session cannot go so smoothly because of the fact that first of all, your university is actually located in a place where there's hardly Wi-Fi, so you obviously do get Wi-Fi, but then at the same time there are people who actually come from places where there might not be any internet devices as well. So what are we doing to improve that teacher-student connection while the virtual class is on?
Well, that's probably, Shahzad, is the most challenging aspect of this virtual classroom, because connectivity is the real issue. We have actually approached companies to develop some kind of packages for students where they can have first of all lesser, cheaper connectivity and with a good signal. And we have approached even beside the telecommunication companies, we have approached banks actually to support our students. And there are many banks who are willing to do it actually. Since this came very rapidly and we never planned for it, so we are moving fast, but I mean it will take some time. There are challenges, and connectivity is one of the real issues. And I think after this this session, this semester, companies would be planning to go to the areas where there are connectivity issues because they are aware that future is virtual classroom is
And
not
that's an
future.
opportunity.
And that's an opportunity. The LMS that we launched, we would have never launched it if COVID-19 was not there.
Exactly.
That's an opportunity.
Wow.
So I mean, it comes, there are difficulties and nobody can.
And so
But
believe
you
me,
know,
you've
the
done a
best
wonderful job.
Exactly, and the best thing is, you know, sir, what the youngsters, they generally have an issue with their teachers and probably the parents as well, the generation, and that is because they think that they're not ready for change. But you're actually, I mean, a visionary. When students came up to you and shared, you know, their LMS idea with you, you supported them. You let them make their own management system rather than buying it from someone, and that's great support and encouragement. Thank you so much for being that idol for them, and thank you so much for being here in the show as well.
And sir, if there's anything you want to say, if there's a message for everybody who's out there or for your Abdul Wali Khan University, Mardan, please go ahead, look into the camera and talk to
I
them.
think the biggest message that I have for my students is that it's a difficult time. Yes, I understand that. There could be gaps in teaching, there could be gaps in the virtual classroom, there could be connectivity issue. But hey guys, the class is on. Join it. And enjoy the teaching and learning system. If there is any problem with the teaching and learning, I'm there. I'm there to support, and we as a team gonna do it. And inshallah, alhamdulillah, we will pass. We will pass this period, and we will pass it with zeal and success, inshallah.
No doubt
Inshallah,
on that.
sir. And you know, it's a job well done, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm saying it because of the fact that, you know, no vice chancellor from a university actually makes sure that he's going to be on different places, on different channels, so that he can probably alleviate the level their universities on. You know, more and more people are going to learn about it as well. And I think, sir, I would love to thank you for being a teacher.
It's a pleasure.
With such a kind
It's a
heart
pleasure.
and with such a big smile as well. This is this is the future, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we always wanted. But right now, please don't go anywhere. We're going for a short break. And what will we do when we come back?
So when we come back, you know, we're actually going to be discussing the situation of the federal capital, Islamabad, in terms of, you know, how we're dealing with the COVID-19 and what everyone else can learn from us. Stay tuned to find out. Good morning.